Cinema Classics is sponsored by WCBE 90.5 FM, Columbus, Ohio, and is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to shows online at wcbe.org.
I'm John DeSando.
And I'm Mary Yerina.
And this is Cinema Classics. Thank you for sitting in for Johnny, hoping that he will be returning soon.
Thank you for the invitation.
All right. Okay, now, rarely do I say this, but I am going to predict Cate Blanchett is at least nominated for an Oscar for her new film, Tar.
I would agree with that
All right.
prediction. That's a good place to start.
Set it up for us, will you?
Cate Blanchett stars in the title role of Tar. She plays Lydia Tar, a classical music conductor and composer who is at the height of her powers in terms of her career. And the movie takes off from there.
Yeah, and it's a fiction, though I initially thought it was really about
A true
a
person.
true person, and I said, how did I miss her? But it isn't.
You didn't.
I did not. It also reminds me, just as a way of an interjection, it's interesting, isn't it, in the part of the film where she goes home and she meets the person that she knew downstairs, he's downstairs going in.
Yes, and I'm not sure who that person was.
Right, but did you hear that he called her Linda?
Yes.
So she is such a manipulator. Good Lord.
Well, and she's created this persona in
Yes.
a still male-dominated world.
Boy, I would
that
say.
her character is the first ever female conductor of a major German orchestra, in this case the Berlin Philharmonic, which is the height of classical music in Germany.
And I think there is a female conductor somewhere who approaches this kind of acclaim, but I've forgotten her name and she's not well known.
I mean, there are several female conductors who have led major orchestras. Joanne Falletta is probably one of the better known ones in the United States. I think the thing that's interesting about the character of Lydia is her persona is very masculine. It's almost like in order to succeed in this world, she had to become like the male conductors that became world famous and totally controlled their orchestras, and not necessarily to the betterment of herself as a person, but certainly as a betterment to the music and to the orchestras she led.
Yeah, and so she chooses the name enigmatic, Tar, with the umlaut. I have no idea what that comes from. And she doesn't have a von in front of her name.
No, she does
like
not.
Von Docknahy or
Well,
Von Tarian or whatever.
In the opening of the movie, she's getting ready to be interviewed by Adam Gopnik of The New Yorker, which is actually
Gopnik.
Right. Who's playing himself. Sorry, I don't read The New Yorker.
No,
Is
but
that obvious?
apparently everybody knows. I wouldn't know Adam Gopnik from anybody.
But he's getting ready to interview her, but spends what seems like an eternity introducing her and reading off her pedigree. So it's clear from her pedigree that she was born and raised in America. So she is an American and has the pedigree that if you go to classical music concerts and you read the programs about guest artists or guest conductors, it has it all in terms of where she studied.
Right.
Cleveland is mentioned as where she got her start, and it goes on from there. And at the time we join her, the reason she's being interviewed is she's about to release her memoir.
Yeah, and the people associated with her in the orchestra are not largely Russian, but certainly Francesca maybe is Russian. Her assistant.
Her assistant.
The new cellist.
The new cellist, who's not Francesca,
Right.
is Russian.
Right.
And as you would expect to see in any orchestra, people come from all over. In our local, Columbus Symphony Orchestra, Rasen Milanov has Eastern European, if not Russian, background.
Right.
At Promusica Columbus, David Donsmeyer is Austrian. He's the music conductor there.
Right.
So you've got people who come from all over the world who come together for these opportunities to create music. So it's not unusual, and it certainly portrays that in this film, that you've got people coming from all over to form the Berlin Philharmonic and to be in her world administratively for the orchestra. So.
And kind of close to her in some ways is Mark Strong as Elliot Kaplan, who is a financier apparently. Or some
He's
kind
a
of
financier who aspires to be a conductor.
I like his character. I wish we had more of him.
Well, and I almost had to do a double take. I didn't recognize him at all. I've never seen him look like that physically on film. So I was kind of, who is that? Yes, that is Mark Strong.
Mary, give me an instance of where she's manipulative in just her brilliant way.
She certainly views herself as being in power with the orchestra and wants to shape it the way that she would want, and apparently inherited an assistant conductor who she doesn't view as up to her standard.
Yeah, he's an old timer.
He's an old timer. Sebastian. And she actually somewhat goes through the political process of talking to her predecessor, even the character played by Mark Strong references it in their little exchange when she's in New York at the beginning of the film. And she does basically go into his office to suggest that he's going to rotate into a different position, which is basically a touring version of kind of Berlin Philharmonic, where he won't be in the day-to-day operations anymore. And it's somewhat of a manipulative conversation, the way that it comes off. And to that extent, you brought up her assistant, Francesca, who they present as the reason she's in that position is she wants to become, the assistant conductor and move up to conducting ranks. And the way that Lydia tells her she can put herself on the list for potential successors to Sebastian, and then subsequently tells her she's not going to get the position.
And since she is the major domo of this place, and since she is, as you had said, has almost complete power, it still is difficult to make those decisions about who's going to rise and wherever, if you're in that position. So I sympathize with it. However, I think where she begins to have her downfall is that she's been playing games about this for a long time. In fact, misleading Francesca to think that she would be the assistant conductor. And
potentially, one of the aspects of the film, which is written, produced, and directed by Todd Field, is that I felt like he borrowed from Proof, particularly the references on stage, if you saw the play Proof. And it is referenced in the film as well, is that you're given glimpses of their relationship through these very sometimes short scenes and not full conversations, and you're left to interpret it like the way that you're feeling the character is going. So for instance, with Francesca, what you just said, I never got the feeling that she promised her the position and then didn't, and was stringing her along. I just got the impression that she didn't think she was good enough to rise to that. And to a certain extent, people in power like to keep people who are serving them, continuing to serve them, because otherwise it's a headache for them to find a replacement.
I think
I took it a different way.
No. I like the way you've approached that, because we have no proof that she ever promised it to her.
Right.
There is something, however, about an expectation that Francesca had, and I wonder where she got that. She must have gotten some of that.
Clearly,
from
but
Lydia.
Who knows?
Right,
she could have
knows?
been misinterpreting actions by Lydia or comments by Lydia herself. So we're never really given that. I felt that full picture. But you could see it going either way.
Oh yeah, and I think that's part of her genius, is being able to keep all these people kind of waiting and looking and hoping, and that must be a way in an orchestra. Can you imagine how many egos you have to deal with per day?
Well, orchestras are large organizations, and it's not like they're spread out through a big office building. I mean, when they come together en masse. And so there's a really telling scene part of the height of her career, in addition to releasing her memoirs, she's going to record the last Mahler symphony, Mahler 5.
The five issue.
The 5.
I love
In the
that.
Mahler cycle, she's going to record it, and they've been waiting, the orchestra's been waiting for her to decide what the companion piece is going to be for this recording, and she settles for her own reasons the Elgar
Well, wait,
cello
wait.
concerto.
You're saying we don't know her reasons?
Well, we do, but I'm trying not to give too much away.
Oh, yeah, all right, yeah.
So she settles on it, and in front
It's
of
Elgar, which is quite a bit
Elgar.
different.
Yeah,
from-
very
from the
different. And it's a beautiful cello concerto. If you've never heard it,
Yeah.
go find a
All right,
recording
Mary,
and
you know,
someone listen.
you know, yeah, you were
But let
right.
me tell you,
Yes.
let me finish my thought.
Yes.
She tells the entire orchestra, basically, that the principal cellist, because they're not bringing in a guest artist, is going to have to audition for it.
Oh,
And
and then
that's-
wonderful, yes.
As part of the
You're right, that is.
orchestra culture,
Oh,
that's
ouch.
really
Oh, it was-
insulting.
all right, Mary Yerina,
So
stop
it
now.
just gives you a sense. That's all I wanted to do, was
I know.
give you a sense of
And
the conflict.
and let's continue this on Back Talk, all right? If people will have to go to WCBE, let's continue this on Double Take, because we are Cinema Classics, and we'll kind of drift right into that. Meanwhile, what do you recommend to your audience?
This is the type of film that film festivals and the Academy will love. I'm not so sure it's one for the general public.
Well, several of my friends will not go to see this, and I guess I'll be able to head them off. But
You should.
but for me, it's my kind of